In this video, we're going to take a look at correct score trading strategies on Betfair. The correct score market is a notoriously hard market to trade, but coming up, I'm going to reveal some huge secrets about trading the correct score market and then literally give you a rare and hard to find strategy to play around with. And of course, we've got real life demonstrations so you can see the strategy in action for yourself. Go grab a nice cold beer and let's get into it. So the correct score market can appear to be a complicated beast to trade, and so I'm going to kick this video off with a few correct score trading secrets revealed that will point you in the right direction of trading this market. And the first mention is do not enter the match with your whole stake when you're trading the correct score market. There's so many different possibilities and so many different scenarios that can develop in football. It's notoriously unpredictable, so you want to have some wiggle room to be flexible depending on how the match is developing. And what we're going to be showing you today with the strategy, it does involve backing some initial target scores, and then we cover the other scores when we know the direction of the match, as you're going to see in just a moment. So the idea is you probably want to enter with a fraction of your stake and only use your full stake in certain scenarios. If the match and the trade is going really well, well, maybe you don't even need to commit your full stake into the market. But really, you do not want to be adding risk as the trade progresses. You want to look to remove risk as the trade progresses. That should be one of your main aims. And as long as you know what your set stake is, and you stick to that without suddenly taking wild risks, then you'll do much better in the long term trading this way. So either way, look, measure your risk and have your set maximum loss before you enter a correct score trade. Now, we've looked around at a lot of the pretty high priced correct score courses, many of them in the 4 figures that have been released over the past decade. And we did notice a pattern. Now, many of the strategies that were released in these courses, they seemed good on the outside, and especially if the trade was a winner. But when you looked closer at it, you realize that when the trade was going badly, some of these courses were advising to take some additional risk and running up some high liabilities in the trade. Now, this would obviously pay off most of the time, and again, it would look good to the naked eye, but you'd only need one bad match to seriously damage your bank or even blow your bank in certain matches. I mean, I did see one example of a strategy where the advice was, hey, if it's not going well, just lay the 0-3 to the underdog. That rarely ever comes in, so just lay that and then you'll be safe. Well, yeah, of course, rarely ever comes in until it does, and then suddenly you're in a whole world of pain. So it's not a good approach to trading. It's not a good approach for your mental health or your heart health either. So keep all these secrets and tips in mind, but just measure your risk and have your set maximum loss before you enter a correct score trade. Some of these prices are quite high to lay, so don't be laying these prices unless you have done exactly that, measured your risk and know exactly how much you are willing to risk if the trade goes wrong. And so with all this in mind, let's take a look at the strategy that we're going to be looking at today. This is quite an old one, but it's also quite a rare strategy that I haven't seen mentioned in a very, very long time. So this is probably a new strategy to many of you, and it doesn't have a name, but we're going to call it the correct score 60-40 trading strategy, and you'll find out exactly why in just a moment. So what we're going to be doing is you're going to look for an even matchup with both teams around 2.4. Sorry, not around 2.4, above 2.4. So you're looking for those markets where you got two evenly matched teams, and the main reason for that is because you want to get involved in matches where we're not actually sure who is going to be the dominant team. When you've got two teams above 2.4, either team could be the dominant team, and it's quite hard to work out before kickoff. And you want to look for a match profile of 2 goals minimum, usually quite easy to find. But again, probably for this strategy, you want it to be, well, I say a low scorer, but you want it to have at least 2 goals. So look for those matches where you've profiled it of having at least 2 goals, maybe around 3 goals, but not a match where it's just going to be a very high score of 5, 6, 7 goals or something like that, because that might be a little bit tricky for this particular strategy. Now, what we're going to do is, as mentioned earlier, we're going to enter with a fraction of our stake. So we're entering with 60% of our stake. So if our stake is £100, we're entering with £60. If you're using a £10 stake, you're going to enter with £6. And what we're going to do is you're going to Dutch the 2-1, the 1-1, and the 1-2 to enter the match. That's how we're going to enter the match with 60% of our stake. Now look, if this match ends in a damp squib, if there's no goals or there's just a very late goal, you just let it run for a 60% loss. So you haven't lost your whole stake, you've only lost 60% in this eventuality of a 0-0, which is always a good thing. So let's have a look at this. And then after the first goal, you're going to then Dutch the 2-0 and the 3-0 in favor of the scoring team. So we're basically letting the match play out. We're going to see who is the dominant team, who takes the lead, and then we're going to cover the 2-0 and the 3-0. Because if we covered the 2-0 and the 3-0 in favor of a team that we liked before kickoff, well, in play, suddenly they're not playing so well, and then they concede an early goal, and then suddenly those 2 score lines are dead. So with the way it's set up, any goal goes in, all our score lines, all our target score lines are still alive, and then we can add 2 more to it, and then we're pretty much 1 goal away from hitting a target score. So from that point on, we let it run. Any goal, we're going to land on a target score, and then at that particular point, we either cash out or remove the risk. There's a few caveats to that. I mean, if this happens really early in the match, it's going to be hard to cash out for a profit because the odds won't have steamed in enough. So do keep that in mind. But ideally, if you can land on that target score late on in the match, you should be able to cash out, or you could just remove risk for free bets. Especially if it goes to 2-0, maybe you might want to let it run, see if you can hit the 3-0. So anyway, lots of options there at the same time, but I think it's time to put it to the test, and I think it's time to get into some real life trading demonstrations of the 60-40 correct score trading strategy. But before I do that, I would really love it if you could click the like button to support the channel. These videos are free for your education. All you got to do in return is click the like button to support the channel. Also, while you're there, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. This ensures, or at least gets you close to being ensured, that you're going to get our new videos in the future, unless we get shadow banned or just kicked off YouTube. Anyway, let's get into some real life demonstrations. 60-40 correct score trading strategy. Check this out. So here's a match between Scotland and the Ukraine. Now, what you can see is that we have Dutched the 1-1, the 1-2, and the 2-1, and we've used, well, it says $59.99 for anyone who's a bit pedantic, but it's a £60 stake. Now, our overall stake we're going to use on this match is actually £100. So we're only starting out using £60 initially, and we're covering these score lines: 1-1, 1-2, 2-1. Main reason is because any goal that goes in, all these score lines will remain alive. Now, let me just show you the actual match odds matchup from this. Scotland against the Ukraine. We've got Scotland there, 2.66. Ukraine there at 3.05. So this is a very, very even matchup, and it could be hard to decide or even consider who's going to take the lead or who could actually win the match. So that's why we're going to hold back with the next part of our stake, because if we go in and we just back, say, 2-0 and 3-0 to Scotland, well, early goal to Ukraine, both those score lines are dead, and vice versa if we wanted to do it for Ukraine. So doing it the way we're doing it means that we can wait to see who scores the first goal, and if it is Scotland, well, then we just back the 2-0 and the 3-0. Okay, maybe it's slightly better odds, but you could argue it's a much better advantage rather than just going in the market blindly and hoping that Scotland score first. If it is Ukraine who score first, then we cover the 2-0 and the 3-0. Knowing, of course, we've got 1-1, 2-1, and then 2-1 reverse covered as well, and we can maneuver from there. So anyway, this one's just about to kick off. Let's see how this goes in play. So a bit of a slow burner, but we finally got a goal and it's gone to Scotland. So now we know which direction this can potentially go in, and we can now back the 2-0 and the 3-0. Probably not likely to come in. But let me just quickly take a look at that. Okay, no, that's no good. So we need to Dutch it, and we're going to Dutch it with that remaining £40. And we'll just get that in the market. And you'll see that we'll have some green on that 2-0. It's now one of our target score lines. And obviously we have 1-1 covered, and we have a bit more green on the 1-1 and the 3-0. So anyway, one more goal. We'll land on a target score line with this one. Let's see what happens. Scotland 1, Ukraine 0. 80 minutes on the clock, so we got one goal, then we got the second one. We just landed on a target score line here. It's now Scotland 2, Ukraine 0, and time to cash out. Late on in the match, let's cash it out and let's lock in that profit. Remember, we got 55 on that 2-0, 53 on the 3-0. So, I mean, if it went to 2-1, that would significantly improve our situation, possibly. I mean, that's the thing with correct score trading. There's so many possibilities. But I'm going to try and even it out. It's probably neither here nor there, okay? So it's a £46. Okay, we got it up to a £47, all locked in, okay? So anyway, it's a decent little strategy, as you saw there. Remember, we entered covering 1-1, 1-2 and 2-1. It's an even matchup. We weren't too sure which team was going to go for it. In the end, it was Scotland. When Scotland took the lead, we then had the ability to then just cover the 2-0 and the 3-0 in favour of Scotland. We would have done it the opposite if it went to Ukraine. So here we are. We got the second goal, landed on the target scoreline, all cashed out, and the profit is secure. 80 minutes on the clock. Scotland 2, Ukraine 0. So we still have more examples to come, but for those who are interested in learning how to trade the correct score market and become a master at trading this particular market, we have now launched a new course that covers this exactly, and it's called Correct Score Mastery. And this course will teach you everything you need to know about trading this market, including how to remove risk and minimize losses from the correct score market, how to create free bets and leverage in the correct score market, and of course free low risk, high reward and advanced strategies to use and move forward with. That is all included inside Correct Score Mastery and a whole lot more. Now, if you want more information about the program, you have to download this course prospectus ebook. It's free to download. The link is in the description of the video, and this ebook should have all the details that you need to know about the program, because there is quite a lot to take in. As said, it's full mastery. You learn the correct score market inside out. And just a heads up, the correct score market is a very sensitive market. It's also quite advanced, so we won't be able to just allow anyone onto the program. You have to fill out the application form that's inside the prospectus to try and get in. Either way, click below to get the course prospectus ebook, and you'll take a closer look at what there is to offer. The link is in the description of the video. Put in your best email address and we're going to email that right to you. Anyway, let's jump into another live example of this correct score trading strategy. So looking at this match between Croatia and Denmark, Croatia are the favourites, 2.64, but it is a very, very even matchup. So we're going to do the same again on this one, and we've got the 1-1, 1-2 and 2-1 covered, and then it'll just be a case of whoever takes the lead, then we're going to side with them on the correct score market. So let's see what happens. It's just about to kick off. 50 minutes in, Croatia are the team that take the lead in this one. It's Croatia 1, Denmark 0. So we know which side we have to favour now on that correct score market, and we're gonna go in okay, so we've got £40 left of our stake, and so we'll get that in the market, and it'll give us slightly less green on the 2-0 and the 3-0. So really our best bet, or the best thing we're looking for, would be a 1-1. But anyway, let's see what happens. We're now favouring Croatia. It's Croatia 1, Denmark 0. We've got a full stake in the market. One more goal. We're going to land on a target scoreline. 80 minutes on the clock, and this one has escalated very, very quickly on us, okay? So equaliser from Denmark on 77 minutes. And then when we were trying to figure out what to do, Croatia retook the lead. So we've missed out on taking advantage of the green we had on that scoreline on the 1-1, and it was a nice cash out of around £60 at that particular point. But obviously we've been hit by a double whammy, so in a way we've got to be kind of grateful that we can actually just get out with a profit from this one, because it could have been a lot worse. So let me just show you another little option that you do have, and I'm going to show you this using the what if. You can see that we could leave a free bet of £40 on the 2-1, but of course we could just cash it out and just take the profit that was available. So a little bit of an annoying trade, but that's something you've got to be prepared for when you're trading correct scores. That 2 quick goals are not great. It can be very, very annoying, because otherwise we could have easily doubled that, or more than doubled that. It would have been around a £60 cash out once it landed on the 1-1. But anyway, still glad to get out with a profit in the end. Croatia 2, Denmark 1. So international matches can be pretty hard to predict when you've got an even matchup like this, especially when it's a friendly. So we got Japan against the USA. Japan here are 2.4 favourites. USA slight underdogs, but it's a very, very even matchup. And so if we just head to the correct score market, you can see we've taken our positions, covering score lines where both teams can score. And we're going to see who scores first before we cover any further score lines. So anyway, it's just about to kick off. It's about 1 minute to go till kickoff. Japan against the USA. Let's see what happens next. Only 6 minutes on the clock, and it is Japan who have taken the lead. Japan 1, USA 0. Japan were the favourites, of course. But anyway, so we're going to get involved, covering now 2-0 and 3-0 to Japan with the rest of our stakes. So remember, using a £100 stake in total. So we're going to get the 2-0 and the 3-0 covered, and then we're going to see how this one develops, okay? So 1-0 to Japan, 27 minutes on the clock. We're heading into the 90th minute, and Japan have doubled the lead. So Japan are now 2-0 up, and that puts us on our target scoreline right there, okay? So this is very, very close to finishing, so we may as well just leave a free bet on this 2-0 scoreline. It's into 1.12, we're heading into injury time. So we're willing to bet that that is the end of the scoring. If not, we'll just break even, okay? But anyway, so if this finishes 2-0, we'll make £46. However, I mean, if USA can pull one back, we'll make 196. So that would be very nice as well. But anyway, well, the decision's been taken out of our hands, because it's literally just gone full time. And you kind of tend to see this in friendly matches. They don't really play too much time added on, especially when it's this sort of result. It's 2-0. The match is pretty much over. So anyway, there you go. You saw how the trade worked out. We weren't sure who was going to be the dominant team, so we covered the scorelines that we covered. Japan took the lead, so we covered the further scorelines, and then we hit our target scoreline late on. So very nicely done. Final score here: Japan 2, USA 0. So a decent little strategy, and probably a good one to use on the World Cup. Now, of course, no strategy is perfect, and remember, this channel is all about testing strategies to see what works and what doesn't. And here's a couple of valid criticisms of this method to consider before you fly into the market with it, right? So the exit strategy could probably be improved. I mean, what do we do when it's a 0-0, or if it just remains 1-0 when we've got our full stake in the market? Is there anything that we can do in that situation? Is there anything that we want to do? It's definitely something worth considering. Also, at the same time, the risk reward could probably be better. If you looked at those examples, I think the best case scenario was around a 50% return on our stake, which is probably not the best risk reward ratio. It probably means that if we get a loser, we're going to need 2 or 3 to cover 2 or 3 wins to cover that loser, which is not always ideal. But of course, much of that depends on how many winners we get. We have to probably test the strategy in much more detail and much more volume. So some valid criticisms to consider there. But anyway, the correct score, 60-40 trading strategy. Obviously, rewatch the video so you've got it step by step. But just remember, we're entering with 60% of our stake, covering 2-1, 1-1, and the 1-2. And then after the first goal, you're going to add 40% to the 2-0 and the 3-0 in favour of the team who has scored the first goal, just to be clear on that one. And then you're going to look to cash out or remove risk when you land on a target score, which should be the next goal, and just depends on the time of the match. So as said, rewatch the video and then go into the markets with some small stakes and give the strategy a go. It can be a very good way of also learning the correct score market. And As mentioned earlier on, if you did want more information about the Correct Score Mastery course, you have to download the course prospectus ebook, which is free to download. The link is in the description below. You'll get all the information about everything you will learn inside the program, and also the details on how to apply for the program as well. It's all inside the course prospectus. Anyway, if you are interested in learning a little bit more about how the correct score market works, then this detailed video on the screen right now should be a very big help with that. You'll learn a lot more about the market movement and some other interesting details. It's a very wild market, so I strongly advise watching that video right now. Go grab another cold beer and I will see you in the next video.